São Paulo, May 2012. A luxury penthouse in Villa Leopoldina. 6,000 square feet of marble, glass, and silence. Marcos Matsunaga, the heir to the Yoki food empire, a multi-billion-dollar legacy, walks into his home carrying a pizza. The security cameras catch him for the last time. He looks relaxed. A man who owns the world. But 24 hours later, Marcos is no longer a man. He is a puzzle. Across the state, in the rural outskirts of Kosha, several plastic trash bags are discarded along a dirt road. Inside, investigators don't find household waste. They find the meticulously dismembered remains of a billionaire. No blood was left in the apartment. No signs of a struggle. The killer didn't just commit a murder, they performed a surgery. And the only person home that night? His wife, Elize Matsunaga, the former nurse, the former Cinderella, the woman who learned that in high society, if you want to leave, you might have to take your husband apart piece by piece. Slide into the back seat. Mind the upholstery, I just had it cleaned. São Paulo is a city of walls. Walls to keep the poor out, and walls to keep the secrets in. People think a billionaire's home is a fortress. They forget that the most dangerous person is the one who has the keys. The Yoki case wasn't a crime of the streets. It was a crime of the dining room. Love, betrayal, and a blade that knew exactly where the joints were. The meter is running. Let's see what happens when the golden dream turns into a butcher shop. Marcos Matsunaga was a prince of industry. He liked fine wines, expensive watches, and hunting. He was a man of precision. He thought he had found the perfect wife in Elize. She was beautiful, quiet, and came from a humble background. But their marriage was a castle built on sand. Elize wasn't just a nurse. She had a past that Marcos tried to erase with jewelry and a new identity. But you can't buy a new soul. The atmosphere in that penthouse was suffocating, tension vibrating between the designer furniture. He was tracking her. She was hiring private detectives to track him. They were two hunters living in a 1,000 square meter cage. São Paulo in May is cold, gray, and indifferent. In the Villa Leopoldina neighborhood, the lights of the skyscrapers look like eyes. And on the night of May 19th, those eyes saw a man enter with a pizza, and a woman prepare a suitcase for a trip he would never take. The setting was domestic, but the stakes were dynastic. When the shot rang out, it didn't just kill a husband, it shattered a brand that was in every kitchen in Brazil. But Elize didn't panic. A nurse knows that the body is just biology, and she had all night to work. Vamos entrar agora no momento MQ o silencio da cobertura se torna macabro. E aqui que a frisa técnica da Elize encontra a vigilância implacável da tecnologia. The night of May 19th started with a pizza and ended with a massacre. They argued. Words like divorce, mistress, and past were thrown around like stones. Marcos supposedly slapped her. He told her he would take their daughter away. In the world of the ultra-rich, a divorce isn't just a breakup. It's an eviction from paradise. Elize didn't wait for the lawyers. She reached for a .380 pistol, one of the many guns Marcos kept in his collection. One shot, point-blank range. The heir to the Yoki empire collapsed on the expensive rug. But the crime wasn't the shot. The crime was what happened next. For the next 10 hours, while her daughter slept in the next room with the nanny, Elize became a technician. She dragged the body to the guest bathroom. She used her nursing skills to ensure there was as little mess as possible. She didn't just cut, she disassembled him. Head, arms, legs all removed with the precision of someone who knew exactly where the bone meets the tendon. She packed him into 3 Samsonite suitcases, high-end luggage for a one-way trip to the middle of nowhere. The investigation began as a missing person case. Elize was the perfect grieving wife. She sent emails from Marcos's account to his family, saying he had run off with another woman. She played the victim of abandonment. But she forgot one thing: the building's brain, the CCTV. The police watched the footage from the elevator. On Sunday morning, Elize appears. She's carrying 3 large suitcases. She's struggling with the weight. The wheels are straining. She leaves the building, drives to the countryside, and scatters the bags like unwanted trash along the road in Kosha. When the police found the remains, they were baffled. The cuts were too clean. This wasn't a crime of rage, it was a crime of anatomy. When they returned to the penthouse with luminol, the place looked spotless. But the chemicals don't lie. The guest bathroom glowed like a neon sign under the blue light. The Cinderella had missed a spot. The detectives realized they weren't dealing with a hysterical widow. They were dealing with someone who could look at a human being and see nothing but organic material to be disposed of. The Yoki brand was built on food-on items you find in every pantry in Brazil. Now, the brand was associated with something else. Something you couldn't wash off with soap and water. As the pieces of Marcos were brought to the morgue, the pieces of Elize's story began to fall apart. There is a detail in the autopsy report that still haunts the Brazilian legal system. The forensic experts found something disturbing in Marcos's lungs. Blood. This suggests a terrifying possibility, that Marcos Matsunaga was still breathing when the first cut was made. If the gunshot didn't kill him instantly, if he was just unconscious, it means Elize began the dismemberment while his heart was still beating. The defense fought this tooth and nail. They called it reflexive breathing. But the image was already burned into the public's mind. A woman, a nurse, looking at her husband's chest rise and fall, and choosing to pick up the knife anyway. It wasn't just a murder, it was a slow, systematic erasure of a human being. Theory 1. The broken bird. Her defense painted a picture of a woman pushed to the edge, a victim of domestic psychological abuse, a woman who was bought and sold by a man who treated her like a trophy, not a human. They argued that the shooting was a desperate act of self-preservation that she snapped after years of being belittled for her past. The dismemberment, a frantic, post-traumatic attempt to hide the evidence so she wouldn't lose her daughter. Theory 2. The Black Widow. The prosecution saw something else. They saw a cold-blooded social climber who knew the marriage was ending. Marcos was going to leave her for another mistress. He was going to cut her off from the fortune and, more importantly, from the child. In this theory, Elize didn't snap. She calculated. She waited for him to come home with the pizza. She chose a gun he had taught her to use. She waited for the right moment to eliminate her problem and secure her future. She wasn't a victim. She was a predator who had finally learned how to hunt in the urban jungle of São Paulo. The public was torn. On one side, people saw a woman fighting against a powerful, arrogant billionaire. On the other, they saw a monster who decapitated the father of her child. The Yoki name, which used to mean family dinners and celebrations, was now shorthand for a macabre domestic thriller. But as the trial unfolded, one thing became clear. In that luxury penthouse, there were no heroes, only victims and survivors. And Elize was a survivor who knew exactly how to use a blade to cut through the ties that bound her. The trial lasted 7 days. It was a national obsession. The Cinderella of crime was sentenced to 19 years and 11 months. She went from a marble penthouse to a concrete cell in Tremem, the prison of the famous monsters. But the law in Brazil is as flexible as a blade. In 2022, after serving only 10 years, Elize Matsunaga walked out of the prison gates on parole. She didn't return to the billions. She didn't return to the empire. The Yoki fortune was closed to her forever. But here is the twist, the kind of twist that only a city like São Paulo can write. To survive, Elize had to find work. And what does a woman who spent a decade in prison and knows the streets of the city do? She became a driver. An app driver. Imagine that. You're in São Paulo, you're tired, you've just finished a long day at the office. You open your phone, you call a ride, and a silver car pulls up. The driver is polite, quiet, and wears a mask and sunglasses. You look at the profile name, Elize. You don't think twice. You get in. You sit in the back seat exactly where the Samsonite suitcases once sat. She's a 5-star driver. She's punctual. She's professional. She's the woman who knows how to take a man apart, now helping you get home for dinner. We're here. Your destination is on the right. The Yoki case taught us that the price of an empire is often paid in blood. But it also taught us that the past is never really behind us. It's driving the car. It's sitting in the seat next to you. It's the person who knows how to keep a secret better than anyone else. Check your ratings, my friend. And next time you're in a ride, maybe, just maybe, look a little closer at the person behind the wheel. Watch your step. The sidewalk is slippery tonight. And if you're planning on having popcorn later, maybe choose a different brand.